Butch, when you have a team with this high a level of expectations, do you have to coach them differently to keep them loose? You know, you had a young team for your first couple of years, could play with a nothing to lose mentality. Now do you have to kind of keep them from getting too tight, knowing that they got probably a lot more on their shoulders than they had as freshmen and sophomores?
Each team is different. The dynamics are different from leadership to all that surrounding. This has been a very, very grounded football team. I think the big thing is just having a consistency and approach week in and week out. And, you know, all we can control are the controllables. And that's, you know, our theme this year is own it. Own the expectations, own our style of play, own your attitude, own your academics, own doing the right things, own the program, you know, everything about, own the situations. So I think just a consistency and approach, and we have great, great leadership. And our players have done a great job of really just focusing on the task in hand. And, you know, everything is what you learned from your previous experiences. And I thought our football team grew up a lot last year. And so you have to be able to apply those experiences. But, you know, like I continually say, the expectations may be high, but they're never as high as they are internally.
Front row, left side.
Coach, it seemed like this spring, like a real priority for you guys was to get the passing game going a little bit with Josh and receivers and whatnot, and just becoming more explosive, you know, with that part of the offense. What did you see from that this spring, and how important do you think that aspect of your offense will be to your season in 2016?
It's very important. We have to have the ability to push the ball down the field. And one of the things when we look at taking the next step in our football program, on our football team, and offensively, is being able to push the ball more down the field. And when you look at a lot of the great offenses, you know, they win the 50-50 ball. You know, they're able to throw the ball deep and go up and make a play. And we've really, really focused on that. I think the other element to improving that piece is also the health. Unfortunately, the last 2 years, we've been decimated at the receiver position. So one of the keys for us in moving forward is to maintain our health throughout the course of a long football season. But we've worked very hard on that, and we'll continue to work hard on that.
Front row, right side.
In light of the recent Title IX investigation at Tennessee, which was settled, obviously, what would you tell someone who thinks that Tennessee athletics has a culture of violence against women?
Well, first of all, that's a very, very serious matter, and it's something that we take very seriously, and I don't think of it in terms of a settlement or behind us. That's an ongoing societal issue. It's an issue that's on every college campus. And so what we have to continue to do is educate our players. We have a year-round 4th and 1 program that has been in place for 3 years, and we take that very serious. I grew up in a law enforcement household. I understand the severity of it. I understand that what comes along with that. So I think it's for us continuing to educate our players and make it a focal point, because it is an issue and it's something that we take very seriously.
Also on the right side, back row.
Coach, welcome to year 4. It's your first as a head coach. What's it like to have a senior class that you brought in as true freshmen?
Tell you what, it's a small senior class. We finally have some playing experience in our football program, but we only have 11 seniors. But this is a group that we walked into their living rooms and we talked about being the foundational piece of getting Tennessee football back to relevance. And, you know, when you look at the 3 individuals here today with Joshua Dobbs and Jalen Reeves-Maben and Cam Sutton, you know, some of the rewarding times was on the plane this afternoon coming over here, and we actually got together last night and just hearing the stories of the building of the program and everything. And I'm excited for them, and they've earned the right to be here. And, you know, all the expectations are really, if you're a competitor, that's what you want. That's why you come to the University of Tennessee. That's why you coach at Tennessee. You know, 3 short years ago, this room was probably half filled and nobody was talking Tennessee football. But now it's, what do we do with it? How do we learn from our previous experiences? And again, it's not where you start, it's where you finish. You become humbled very early. We were humbled this morning. We pulled in. Kevin Sumlin took the air-conditioned bus and left us with the heated bus, so we're in about 110-degree temperatures driving over here. So that sets the tone right away. But our players have been magnificent, and they've been very focused.
Left side here in the green shirt.
I have the mic. Can I ask?
Sure.
Okay, thanks. Butch, you were asked in the main room about Jalen Reeves-Maben and Alvin Kamara and their activism in the Diversity Matters issue in February. That case obviously came down that the state decided not to pull funding from the diversity department. I was wondering what your stance or take was on that situation, is because that's something that could obviously affect your program and your recruiting.
Well, it does, and that's a very important issue. But I've learned as a head football coach, again, stay in your lane, and those are things that are decisions that are made elsewhere. So, what we can do is continue to support our players and be there for our players, continue to educate our players, and that's really all that I can say on that.
Left side, second row.
Two-part question, Coach. First and foremost, 5 wins your first year, 7 the next, 9 last year. And we hear, you heard the commentators, all the pundits. You got to give Coach a couple of years. A couple of years is now. How does that make you feel, for starters? Second, I think you said 13-5 in your last 18 games, those 5 losses by 25 points. You got 100 kids on the team, which means they got to get one quarter better. What are they doing to get one, to make up for those 25 points?
Well, 2 very good questions. And I think, first of all, I understand we live in an instant gratification society. But we're building everything through what we call the compound effect. Everything adds up over time, and we talk about being 1% better. If you can be 1% better every single day, pretty soon you're going to like what you see. And it's having a plan in place. And it takes time. It takes time to build a culture. It takes time to build stability. It takes time to build leadership. And you have to have the right people on board, and we do have that. And so, there's been a blueprint. We'll continue to follow that. The road to success is always under construction. There's twists and there's turns. When you talk about searching for those 25 points, it all talks about everybody reinvent themselves. Everyone in our football family, our football program, it starts with me first and foremost. Everyone has to be a better version of themselves. It's like, why do some businesses grow? Why do some businesses go bankrupt? Well, you have to constantly reinvent yourself. You have to be a better version of you, and there's no place for complacency. And that's my job as a head coach, and it starts with me first and foremost. So we've asked everyone to be a better version of themselves and identifying the 25 points. We talk about, I think it kind of shows you what we have in place in terms of team, is Jalen Reeves-Maben comes to me in the spring, and he says, I put together a video I'd like to show the football team. And usually I proof every video that is shown beforehand. And I trusted him, and I said, you go ahead and go. And he gets up there and he puts together his own 25-point video of critical plays in critical moments throughout the course of the season. But as a leader does, leaders eat last. He starts off with himself. He starts pointing out maybe a mistake in fundamentals by him, maybe a blown coverage, a missed tackle, and he holds himself accountable. He goes on to his teammates, and he talked about the importance of gaining those 25 points. So to me, that's been great to see, because that has evolved in our football program from a leadership standpoint.
We have time for 2 more questions.
Yeah, Coach, I have 2 questions. Earlier in the season, you had some losses that were close, and from the outside, they seemed to be heartbreaking. Good coaches, good players, as you just mentioned, look in the mirror. I'm curious what you did throughout the season, within the season last year, and maybe even in the off season. Did you talk to other coaches? Did you reach out to mentors? What did you do to learn how to finish as a coach and then be able to pass that down to your kids?
Great question, and I talk about it all the time. Is, to me, everyone talks about a defining game in the evolution of your football program, and everyone wants to point towards the great victory over Georgia. To me, the defining moment in our football program was the Arkansas game. Mm-hmm. That was a hard-fought loss. I walked in the locker room. You had kids in tears. They could feel the negative energy. They could feel the clutter. They could feel the distractions. Mm-hmm. And I knew first and foremost that they were looking at me. We called a team meeting the next morning, or the next evening rather, and we talked about we're at a crossroads, and this was going to challenge our character as a football team and our leadership. And we set a direction out. We actually retook our team picture on Monday, and I thought that was the defining moment, because that really showed what type of character we have in our football program. Because we could have listened to all the clutter and distraction and the negativity, and we chose not to. And actually, that moment brought us closer as a football program than any other moment since we've been at Tennessee.
My second question is, you were asked about the lawsuit being settled, the $2.48 million lawsuit. Do you recognize the gravity and the opportunity that Tennessee now has in our culture to become a leader in terms of the way you educate your young men and how you act moving forward and how you value women moving forward on your campus, in homes, and how you teach your young men to do that? Do you recognize, and the gravity, does that weigh on you, that now, because that's over and that chapter is closed, you have an opportunity to do something really great and be a leader within the college football world?
Absolutely. And that's why we have a 4th and 1 program. That's why we're constantly educating our players. And I don't ever look at it as being over. I think it's constant education. It's constantly evolving in what different ways we can get our messaging across. Again, that's a situation. Those are situations that we take very, very seriously. And it is. We want to be the envy of our peers in terms of educating our players, having our players be spokespersons for this, because it is an issue that surrounds every college campus, and we take that very seriously.
One last question.
Coach, you talked about expectations and improving every year 1% better. Do you feel like you're the team to beat this year in the SEC East?
I don't ever look at it like that. I believe in us controlling the controllables and following the process and, working every day to be better. And all that will take care of itself. Never looking up. And that's what we talk about, never looking at the scoreboard until there's 2 minutes left to go in the game and what you need to do. So I think the big thing is once you get outside your lane, you start becoming distracted. And that's where you have to rely on the maturity now that we have on our football program and our leadership to just win the day. That's all we got to do, is just when we go in the weight room, win that 1 rep, then win the set, then win the day. And that's kind of the focus that we've talked about with this football team since day one.